Is the ozone layer of planet Earth being eroded away? Are our forests being destroyed? Are our oceans being filled with acid? How are we disposing of our waste? Are our species becoming extinct due to the actions of human beings? How should we care for the natural resources on planet Earth? What about pollution? And how does the Christian ethic handle these situations? These are questions that we will examine in this episode of Christian Ethics Made Easy. The time for learning reduced from months into minutes. In this video, we will be discussing the topic of ecology. Ecology is the study of the relationship between organisms and their environment. Ecology. This issue is dominated by three worldviews: that of materialism, pantheism, and Christianity. Materialism sees the universe as a purely physical world with a never-ending source of energy. And through technology, humans can find new ways of converting unusable energy into usable energy. Now, pantheism, on the other hand, is almost the opposite of materialism. Pantheism means all is God. So in this view, everything is God. Nature is divine, and humans are obligated to protect the world from invasive technology. Christianity, in contrast, does not believe neither that the nature should be worshipped as divine or that nature is purposeless and should be exploited. Christianity says that the world is created by God, and man is to serve God by caring for his creation. Let us now take a look at each view in more detail. First, the view of materialism. The materialistic worldview is held by mostly atheist and secular humanists who believe that the universe is uncreated, has always been here, and always has the same amount of energy. They often cite the first law of thermodynamics. They say energy cannot be created nor destroyed. The response to this is, the first law of thermodynamics simply shows the amount of energy is consistent as far as we know, that we do not observe any new energy coming into existence. However, the second law of thermodynamics shows the amount of usable energy is decreasing. So if the universe is eternal, then the amount of energy would have dissipated already, which shows the universe as having a beginning, which is exactly what the Bible says. Number two, the materialist answers the question about why millions of people are starving in the world by saying that the problem is not exploitation of natural resources, but that the problem is poor distribution. The response to this is, poor distribution is not the problem, but it is the sinfulness of men that is the problem. Human selfishness and greed is what causes the poor distribution. Number three, to solve the poor distribution as well as other problems, the materialists punt to technology, saying science, working through government and education, can solve any problem that arises. The response to this is, science, technology, and education has its benefits. However, we cannot plan in advance all the problems that may arise. We cannot even know what questions to ask before an unknown problem does arise. In regards to education, making a person more educated does not make the person good, and in many cases just makes them better at being bad. There have been many evil geniuses throughout history, evil governments as well. People are the ones abusing the environment. The treatment of the environment will not change for the better until people themselves change for the better. Number four, materialists assume that there is a never-ending supply of energy because if it cannot be destroyed, it will always be here in one form or another. We just have to find a way to turn it into usable energy. The response to this is, the second law of thermodynamics shows us that the amount of usable energy is decreasing. Through nuclear fission, burning up of stars, energy will be transformed into unusable heat, and the universe will die, known as the Great Heat Death. But something that will happen much faster is the fossil fuels and precious metals of Earth are limited and can be used up as well. Okay, now let us take a look at the view of pantheism, which believes all is God and God is all, that nature is divine, usually held by Hindus and New Agers. One belief that pantheists have is that humans are not masters of the earth, but just equal residents of the earth, like birds, fish, etc., which have been here for millions of years and survived just fine. The response to this is, masters can also be servants. Jesus is the master and serves his people well. God gave Adam dominion over the earth, but he also told him to till the land and keep the garden. God is the garden owner, man is the garden keeper. Number 2, pantheists may say, just as man is to be the resident, he is also to be one with nature, like the belief of many North American Indian tribes, the belief to become one with nature, one with yourself, and one with the Great Spirit. The response to this is, humans are not the same as the rest of nature. Humans are created in the image of God, as no other living thing is. We are to live in harmony with nature, or else we die. We may have a physical body like the rest of the creation, but that does not mean that we are identical to the rest of God's creation. Number 3, the belief of pantheists is that nature is alive, that it has a life force. The universe is a giant living organism. The response to this is, nature contains several living organisms, but nature itself is not a living organism, because it contains non-living matter. Life is identified by specified complexity, something that can take in food, convert it into energy, and reproduce. There is zero evidence from science that shows matter is alive. It is dead, inanimate material. However, it is good, and it is a reflection of God, as it is His creation. Pantheists believe the living species are different forms or expressions of God. It is like if you grew another appendage, like an arm or a leg, and the new appendage would be the different species. Therefore, humans are ethically obligated to preserve each appendage or species. This can be seen with examples like prohibiting the building of a new pipeline because it endangers a certain species of mouse, etc. The response to this is, living species are not different forms or manifestations of God. God is independent of all creatures. God is eternal and infinite. Creatures are temporal and finite. Living species are a reflection of God. God is the creator, the species are the creation. Species are different from God, as a painting is different from the painter, or as a book is different from the author. But the author can still be seen in the book. Okay, next is an examination of the Christian ethic of ecology. The Christians believe that God is the creator of the universe, and God owns the universe, and He upholds the universe, and the universe is good, as it is God's making. Man is made in the image of God. Man is the keeper of the earth. God told man to be fruitful and multiply, which is a command to fill the earth, but not to overfill the earth. It's a command to the human race, not necessarily each individual. Jesus and Paul were both single. Mankind has a duty to subdue and rule the earth. Man is not an equal resident of the earth, but king of the earth, and has an obligation to preserve the earth. Jesus himself is a king and a servant. God made a promise to every living creature to never again flood the earth with water. Since every living creature is included in this promise, it's man's obligation to preserve each living creature. God even notices every sparrow that falls to the ground. The Bible provides the Christian with guidance in ecological issues, even though Christians are not bound by the Old Testament laws that are fulfilled in Christ. It is written for instructions. Examples are as follows. 1. The law in regards to war. During war, people were not supposed to destroy the environment. 2. The Old Testament on sanitation, the cleansing of food, hands, and utensils. There were quarantines for people with infectious diseases. Infected houses and clothing had to be destroyed. Human waste had to be buried. These sanitation methods are considered part of holiness. God is holy, and Christians are to imitate God. Number 3, the Old Testament on land greed. The prophet Isaiah warned those who built house upon house upon house and was the only one living in them, showing this destroys the productivity of land. Number 4, the Old Testament on the laws of harvesting. They were instructed not to harvest every last drop. This way was to provide food for the poor and the animals, and a restraint on greedy impulse to plunder the land of all its resources. Number 5, those who have been given trust must prove faithful. God has entrusted us to have dominion over the earth, and we must prove faithful. Everything belongs to God. So we must not destroy God's property and turn it into a dump. Number 6, the law of rest for humans, animals, and even land. The Sabbath day, the Sabbath year. The land was to rest to provide ecological preservation every 7th year for the entire year. to be unplowed and unplundered. Number 7, the law of Jubilee, that says every 50 years the land would return to its original owner. This would restrict the concentration and exploitation of land. Now, some objections raised in opposition to the Christian ethic on ecology is that the Christian worldview is what caused all the environmental problems in the world, because God commanded man to have dominion over the earth. The response to this is, it is not the Christian worldview that has led to all the problems with the environment, but rather the materialistic worldview. Materialism sees the world as an unlimited source of energy. The Christian worldview sees the world as God's beautiful creation that humans are to manage. Dominion of man is what led to modern science. Man is to take charge over nature, and yet manage it responsibly. The Christians do not always live by the Christian principles, and like anyone else can be influenced by the culture of the age. It is not the Bible that is responsible for our environmental problems, but it is our failure to live by what the Bible says. Now, in summary and conclusion, we see that there are 3 major worldviews that dominate the spectrum of ecology, which are materialism, pantheism, and Christianity. Materialism sees the world as purely physical, non-living, and an endless source of energy. Pantheism sees the world as living, as God. All is God and God is all. Man is to protect the world from the invasion of technology. Now, Christianity does not believe neither the mystic worship of nature or that nature is purposeless, never-ending source of energy. Christianity believes that God created the universe from nothing, upholds the universe, and put man as king over the earth to manage it responsibly and respectfully. It is our duty not to pollute, but to preserve. We are to love our neighbor as ourselves. Everyone who likes a nice place to live needs to try to provide his neighbor with a nice place to live. Also, Christians are to love God with all their mind. Now, this means they are not to be deceived and manipulated by those who may use environmental issues to further their own greedy agendas. Now, thank you so much for watching. Please see our other videos on Christian Ethics Made Easy, as well as other topics. And your questions and suggestions are welcomed. Please post them in the comments below.